sorry for the delay, folks. We're just working out. It's our first Skype live video interview. And so naturally with that comes a few bandwidth issues, obviously. So as we start the stream, we're going to start without the video first. Obviously, for Misha, having the two things going on simultaneously for him is affecting the quality for him, and naturally he needs to be able to see the video clearly so that he can explain everything to us, obviously. So we will start the stream without Skype. And if we run into, or if things clear up a bit, we'll try bringing on the video. So we'll just sort of kind of play it by ear. Sorry, we had to get a little bit of a late start, but it's kind of a experiment for us, and we haven't tried anything like this before. So thanks so much for your patience. And with that said, I will go ahead on and say welcome to ADS Live HD. Presented by AirDailyX.net and powered by Jetline Systems. Okay, well, once again, welcome aboard, everyone. I was just told that my voice was a little quiet, so I just realized the microphone was way across my desk, so I brought it a little bit closer. So hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Hopefully not too much louder than our guest this morning. For him, it's a little past 8 o'clock a.m. in Western Australia, and we have Misha Taich, Orbix developer. His most recent release is Lake Tahoe, which is right in my neck of the woods, and I am really excited about it, as much as I am excited to have Misha on with us this morning. So Misha, good morning, are you there?
Good morning. Yes, I am here, and Eastern Australia, by the way.
Are you in I'm sorry, Eastern Australia, that's right, Sydney. My apologies. So for those
No
of
worries.
you watching, you notice a couple of images on your screen, and these images are very, very important because they solidify the beginning of something magical, something wonderful. And Misha, how are you today? I noticed your voice is a little bit on the cold side. I know it's winter in
Yeah,
Australia.
that's right.
Okay, so this is very important. Why don't you just kind of give us a rundown of what we're looking at right now? I know there's a little bit of a delay for you, so hopefully it's already
Yeah.
caught up.
No, yeah, I can see the pictures. All right, well, this was basically the first ever scenery that I developed back in May 2012. It was something like that. It was from like February to May. It took a took a couple of months, and basic basically there's no modeling in this. It's all just library objects, and the testing for it was quite intensive because the first version of it was I put it up for testing, and then people said, look, you have to slow down a bit, okay? We have to test this heaps, and we have to get it up to a certain standard, I guess." And so after about 7 pages or so of testing, it actually we released it, and that's basically it. That was my first ever scenery that I released. That was about 2 years ago now.
And how long did it take you to put something like together? I mean, just not
Something
having the previous experience in sort of just object design, and not only that, but what software program did you use?
well, this took me about from February to May. It took me about 3 months on and off to put this together. I had absolutely no zero experience before that. I had to learn from tutorials that were on the AussieX forums, and I also got in contact with a couple of the Orbex guys who sort of just, I think it was only one of them actually, and they taught me a few things about how to design and how to put it all together. and that was basically it. I used Photoshop, I think. It was basically just Photoshop, a freeware tool called SBuilder X, and that was it. But and also instant scenery. Actually, the thing with this particular one was I didn't have instant scenery until near the end. So what I did was I used the default SDK object placer, which was uh, to say to put it in a nice way, awful. It I have bad memories of using that. It was just you basically had a list of objects and you could only scroll through them one by one. There weren't any library lists. It just showed all the objects available. And I didn't know which was I didn't know which one was an Orbix library or which one was a default library, which one was an add-on library. And so at the end of the development process, when I actually got instant scenery, I ended up with a few objects that I'd used that weren't in any of the OZX libraries, and so I had to go to the developers whose libraries they were and take them from there and put them in the scenery, and I was just like, oh. And then finally, near the end of May, we released it, and yeah, that was it, I guess.
And how did that feel for you? I mean, finally having completed a scenery project and released it, people are downloading it, they're enjoying it. At what point for you did it become obvious that, you know what, I like this? This is something I want to get into, and I want to do a lot more of this sort of thing. I mean, did it come immediately afterward, or did you have to look at it for a period of time and just sort of think, am I really going to kind of pursue this sort of thing, or how did that trigger process happen for you?
Honestly, as soon as I put the first PR into FSX, that's when it
Really?
happened. I thought, oh my god, that is amazing. Like, oh, I actually put something into FSX. I can't believe it, you know. And I thought, oh, I this is definitely something that I'd like to try out. And initially, I didn't think I'd get too far with it. I sort of stuck to the freeware side of it. And I just thought, you know what? I mean, just doing this as freeware is great fun. And it's just something that I'd like to do on the side. I never thought I'd get as far as I have.
And how many total projects did you create after that one for OZX?
Oh, well, just depends what you count as projects. I mean, in terms of individual airports, I did that first one, which I released individually, and then I did there were about about six in a Torres Strait Islands package that was released late 2012, and then there were about another six airports in the 3.4 package, and then finally I released one final individual one at OzX late last year in October, before I moved on to payware pretty much exclusively.
So, how long was the gap between the last OZX project and the beginning, or rather, your MCA airstrips? Did that sort of overlap? So, as you were developing MCA, did you
Mm.
go back and develop one more for OZX, or was there a gap between the two?
No, yeah, they were completely overlapped. Actually,
Interesting.
My first Orbix project and my last OzX project were overlapped too.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So during the development of Vononia, um, that started about August. Or, well, technically, if you count the first modeled buildings, that was about June. But when I really started intensively working on it was August, and I worked on my last OzX project in October last year. So they did overlap.
I see. And when you came to that decision that you were going to create your first payware project, which means that now that you're going to sell a project, now there's a certain standard that has to
Mm,
be upheld. Now you have
mm.
to live to an expectation, whereas when it's freeware, and almost anyone will tell you it's free, either you like it, you don't like it, don't whine or complain about it. But
Yeah.
when you almost in essence open yourself up to scrutiny, rather it be positive or negative. And I don't know if there's such a thing as positive scrutiny, but nevertheless, you really do open yourself up to, I think, just feedback in general, and obviously can go in either direction. And I remember we were in contact with you. This was early. Was it early last year? I remember when Dominique was on board with Air Daily X, and
Mm.
there was a lot of conversing between you and him, and you sent us some exclusive screenshots. And I just remember how authentic and realistic everything looked. And I remember at one point you had learned, I think this was like somewhere during the middle of the development or something, but at some point I remember, and it could have been Vernonia, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it was MCA, where you had stuck me a few screenshots of the MCA project, and then at some point someone had taught you texture baking processes, and once you realized the holy grail of that, I remember you just saying, I've scrapped everything and I started all over from scratch. So, I mean, how was that for you? I mean, was there just like a sense of nervousness, like, oh my gosh, okay, I really have to impress? Obviously, for you, the destinations you chose, I think, is what was the most important thing and the best thing of all of it with MCA was that you selected a set of airfields that sort of hit close to home for me, and that's the fact that not only were they very scenic and very immersed, but they were also very challenging. And I say were, but I still mean are, because Hilltop, which is one of the airports in that scenery package, is one that I still crash at almost on a
Yeah.
regular basis because it is just so incredibly challenging. And it's definitely along the lines of Ken and Tim's PNG project, and along the lines of like Lukla, except far more. If anything, that fits perfectly like with PNG's style projects, only because of if I find that I'm holding my breath throughout the approach and the departure, then that's how I know that it's definitely
Yeah.
very very a difficult thing. So, for you, number one, how did you arrive at the decision to make those particular airports? What made you decide? Okay, I live in Sydney. I'm going to develop a group of airports in Oregon, a place that I've never been, but I'm just going to do this anyway and see how it goes. I mean, how did you? Because obviously that you had to have sat down for a while and just decided, okay, I'm going payware. Everything that I've done for OZX has been at a level that I think is far below my true potential. So how did you just go about that whole location scouting and deciding, okay, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to go about it?
Well, one of the main plays into that, especially when I'm individual, is the availability of free imagery from the USGS. And also, I had intended, from when I'd started to develop, I had intended to develop in PNW because I was a big fan of the Orbex airports in that area. In fact, I bought way more. I initially purchased way more NA airports than Australian airports. I think I only bought like two Australian airports ever, whilst I'd bought like about half a dozen NA airports. And in terms of how I decided to do those particular airstrips, I just looked at them on Google Earth and I thought, the size is manageable for me at the moment. There's a lot of detail that can go into there. I can get away with really dense grass. I can put in some nice clutter, some nice, uh, rusty sort of, what's the word? I can't find the word. I've lost it. Um, I guess it's just the atmosphere, the atmosphere of the whole place, and what you can put into it to make it nice and realistic and, sort of serene, I guess. Serene. That's probably the best way. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Hey, uh, by the way, they can't hear you. They can only no, no one can hear you. They can only hear me, apparently. Just one sec, guys. It's working it out. I don't know how. They can only hear me. Mm. Yeah, it's still broadcasting.
Testing, testing, testing. You know, it's